Okay, let's break down the steps of emotional preparation. So you can go through, it doesn't matter what's going on in your life, you should be able to go through the steps of emotional preparation, and you should be able to come up with a new emotional life when you're following the steps and involved in actually participating in this. So when you're participating in acting, this is the way to be able to do it. So let's go through the steps. There's several steps to emotional preparation. Now, before we begin, we need to understand there are well over 12 different emotional preparations that can be very different styles. So we're just talking about one style of emotional preparation as a baseline to many different ways that you can work with emotional preparation. So let's go over this one. The first thing you want to do is you want to stop all stimulation. You want to stop all stimulation, and you want to be as still as possible, and you want to start the process of just relaxing a little bit. Just relax a little bit. The next step is to think of the idea. What is the idea? Come up with the idea and really be patient enough to wait to find an idea that's right for you. Don't try and find an idea based off of someone else unless it stimulates you and there's something that is interesting to you about that. But you want to find the idea that you want to be able to emotionally prepare upon. So if there's an example to this, you could say that you have fascinations with family dynamics. And for some reason, it's very interesting to you how there's bickering between the mothers and the fathers that happen. And yet it's playful enough that it's not dangerous, it's just a bickering. So that could be an interest that could give you an idea. So what kind of idea could you come up with based on that? Now that's just one idea. There's many ideas, every idea you can imagine. But the important thing is you want to pick the idea that actually has some kind of personal interest to you, and preferably an interest at this time. So you got your idea. Then you want to relax into the idea. Take yourself, you relax into the idea. Test the idea. When you relax into that idea, do you relax and have more stimulation thinking about that idea? Maybe you're remembering times when you were a child and you had bickering that you heard between your parents. And for some reason, that's a driving force in your interest in that. Then what will end up happening is you'll end up starting to develop feelings from thinking about that idea. So you're in what's already called an emotional preparation bubble at this point. You've been very good with yourself. You're being very fair. You're putting stimulation of life aside, and you're focused and concentrated on something that you think that the more you think of that idea, the more it starts to resonate feeling. So that might be a good one. And if you need to, if that doesn't work out with that single idea, you can think of a different idea and just go back through the step. So if, when you go and through the idea, and let's say there's another idea that might be more stimulating to you. Well, let's say well, there could be all kinds of ideas. So whatever idea that you ended up choosing, work on that idea. I'll have a list of different ideas. because I'm focused right now on the teaching, so I want to be able to work on that. So you take whatever idea is stimulating you, and you work off of that and keep thinking about that idea until it comes up with a feeling. Now, this is just the beginning of emotional preparation. Now, when you've got those feelings, the more you think about those feelings, are they doing more to you? Is there something that you feel internally happening to you? Or are these just ideas that are attached, feelings that are attached to thoughts? So are these just feelings that are attached to thoughts? Or are these ideas, are they stimulating the feeling, the real feeling of what it is? And is there an intrigue that you have about that? Now, if there's an intrigue about it, you know you've got another thing that's successful in your emotional preparation. So you know that you've got an intrigue. And say you're starting to get feelings of, well, it could even be of confusion. You start having feelings of confusion. Now you don't know why. You know you're doing your process correctly. And then you start to realize that the feelings are connected to the idea that two people in a married situation could have bickering, right? Now, you stay exactly where you are and you start to trust the process. And every time you trust the process, what you want to do is you want to relax into it. So you know you're involved in a process. You're going to relax into the feeling of confusion. And lo and behold, what happens is more confusion. There's more confusion. There's more feeling and stimulation that's going on inside of you. And now there's not just confusion. Now you're starting to get a feeling of angst or anger, both kind of mixed. Now, at this point, this is almost just an observance that you feel. This isn't anything that you felt an emotion to yet. But you continue to relax into this process. And you continue to relax into this process until the feeling becomes an emotion. It could be the feeling of angst. It could be the feeling of anger. It could be the feeling of confusion. Or it could be all of them. And any other combination that comes out of that genuine connection that connects the feeling to the idea. So this is what you call an actor filling themselves up. They're starting to fill themselves up with emotion. There's something that's actually happening inside of them. They're starting to feel something that's more than just a feeling. They're starting to feel emotion. They're starting to feel a deep confusion that's emotional. Their demeanor is starting to change. And this you can see in the emotional preparation process of a person doing emotional preparation. So when you're doing emotional preparation, you want to be able to sit and be in a still place where you're starting to trust your own process or your own craft of diving into yourself this way. And what you've already found within this example is you found that there is some emotion coming out through those connections. Through the technique of relaxation and through the technique of emotional preparation. You've gone in and you're starting to feel emotions. So what do? Well, you do what you need to do, which is stay exactly where you are. You stay exactly where you are and you keep your focus exactly where it is. And you continue to think and you continue to feel and you continue to have the emotion of that stimulus. and you allow your brain and your mind and your encompassed self and your soul, whatever you want to call it, you allow yourself to really allow yourself to feel this stimulation. And this stimulation continues to go over and over and reignites itself in you. So the next step of emotional preparation in a very relaxed way. Now, you could be feeling a lot of anger, angst, anxiety. You could be feeling all kinds of confusion. That's not coming from the confusion of not knowing the technique, but it's coming from the confusion of the emotional element and of the feelings and from the idea, which is your emotional preparation. So the next thing you want to do, once you have emotions that are starting to work inside of you, is you want to start asking yourself, what does this mean? What does this mean? How does this meaning, what is the meaning of all of the things that I'm actually feeling? And you let yourself run wild with that question. You let yourself just absolutely go to town on it and make sure that you're absolutely allowing yourself to understand what it means to you. And you start to discover that what the meaning is that you didn't know that there was still anxiety in you from listening to your parents arguing. Now that this is activated in you, you're starting to see it clearer, and the more you think about that process, the more emotion you're feeling over it. And the more emotion you're feeling over it, the more you're thinking of the process. So this is perfect. This is emotional preparation. Now there's one last step. The last step. It has to be done. And it is you want to ask yourself, what is a motivation? What's your motivation for the exercise? You knew full well that you had this idea because it attached to a piece of acting work. And this idea attached to a piece of acting work because it was similar or if it was contrasting, but you wanted to be able to have this emotional life in your work. And you found the emotional life. So you want to ask yourself, what is it? What is the motivation? And start going into the motivation and let the motivation come over you. And what you'll notice is, when you invite the motivation inside, then all of a sudden you'll start to have your purpose. You'll start to have a purpose. And your emotional preparation will be there, and you would have crafted it exactly where it needed to be with the script, or exactly where it needed to be with the exercise. And when you've done that, then you've got all kinds of impetus. Every single thing's going on inside of you. You know it. You just know. You're more alive and awake to it. And you have what's called an impulse. So now you have an impulse going off of what is the motivation. Because you brought in your motivation. So you have the motivation, and now you've got your impulse. Now, you have a decision to make. You can go off that first impulse, which is the very deep thing coming off of the emotion that's tied to the meaning. You can take the meaning right to the door too. You can continue to think about the meaning, and you know that full well that you've got all this stuff now starting to happen in you, and you want answers. Maybe that's what it comes to. Maybe that's the way that your emotion comes from. And you want to start having answers for what it is that you've got the emotion for, which is normal, and that would be exactly correct in about 80% of the exercises. A lot of them, you'd want answers. but maybe you want a different thing, and that's completely acceptable. So you take a lot of these things and you let this stuff work inside of you. And you can either bring the meaning to the door, so you can discover something about whatever it is, or you bring that meaning into the acting work by starting the script with that emotional impulse, or you can start it with the motivation. So you have your motivation and you're sitting down to be able to find answers for the questions of why you have emotional angst. Now all of this is how you do emotional preparation. See, you've allowed meaning to carry that over, or you've allowed the motivation to carry it over, but you've allowed the motivation to mix with you, so you know that you now have an emotional concoction that's called emotional preparation, and you're alive to it. You don't know what the result's going to be. If you've done this work and you have all of these elements inside of yourself and they're alive, then they're alive and you don't know what the result's going to be, but you know one thing is that you're ready for work. You're ready for your acting work because you're activized. Your activation started inside of you. So if what happens when all of these ingredients go inside of you, all of a sudden the biggest thing is that you want answers, then that's what you want, and that's what you want answers. And that's what the motivation's done. Maybe another one, a large one, is in certain areas there might be even 60% of other types of emotion that when you look at it, they might want to outpour to be heard. They might want to be heard. But whatever emotionally that does to you, or whatever stimulation occurs within that, that's the correct stimulation. And then you can put that stimulation into your acting. And you put that stimulation by putting your attention on something other than yourself. Because in emotional preparation, all of this is with your attention on yourself. Is it okay to talk to yourself in emotional preparation? Yeah, if you need to. But it's going to be more internal than it is going to be out loud. You're going to internally have to answer these types of questions. What does this mean to you? Why is the emotion important? These kind of things. It's not to intellectualize yourself. It's only to be able to get the stimulus. And it's to be sure that you've gone through the steps so that you've got the stimulus. So you've got the stimulus for emotional preparation, which is completely, entirely internal. And then you have your, you don't know there should be an element of not knowing what to do with yourself. Because there's some kind of something alive in you and you're just not sure what to do. And that's when you take that element and you put your attention on something else. Whether that be knocking on a door, whether that be talking to somebody with the script, and you take the script and you start your script. And you look at that person directly and you carry that over into the acting work. And that's the job of an actor. Now you've just completed emotional preparation. It's just that simple. You don't want to intellectualize too long internally, but you've got to be able to stimulate yourself, and you've got to go through the steps to make sure that you are stimulated. And that's part and a piece of learning your craft. If you don't go through this in some logical order or some logical system, then there's a way that you might miss pieces that are important. And motivation is an important piece. If you can answer motivation and all of a sudden something surges inside of you, you know you've done something well for your emotional preparation, for your inner life, for your inner emotional life. So you take this element and you keep it internal, and you might be very quiet. People might see something's going on, but you're not expressing it. And you wait for your turn to do your acting, or however it's set up. Now, if an acting situation is set up in a really favorable way for you, as soon as you're ready to work, you could just pick up the script, go into it. And everything will already be set up ready for you. If it's a less desirable or more difficult situation, you might have to try and time this situation to do a thing called simmering emotional preparation. Now, simmering emotional preparation is going to be in a different video. But the important thing about this is you've got to be able to stay in your stimulation or your simulation bubble, where you're self-stimulating, emotionally self-stimulating yourself until you're in a situation where it's favorable and they're saying, yes, go into your acting. And at that time, what you do is that if you have to do it off of their impulse and not your own impulse, then you work with the rules of the acting environment around you. And as soon as they let you know that you're ready, then take a second or two, literally a second or two. Take a breath and then go into it with your emotional preparation. And that's how you do it. That's how you do emotional preparation. And those are the steps to emotional preparation. So if you don't know the steps to emotional preparation, these are the steps to follow. And there's many different types of emotional preparation, but this is one way that's a tried and true way that will definitely work, so that you're not just walking in with a feeling hoping that it's worked or not worked, but that you know that you're actually walking in with an emotion. Or some acting teachers say that you've walked in with a presence. And you'll hear that also said with auditions, that the audition or casting people they'll say, wow, that actor sure walked in full of inner life. Or they'll say they walked in with a presence about them. You could really see them in the part. It was all because they were able to do internal emotional stimulation before entering the room. And they did it very, very correctly to match what was in the script. So good luck with this. Let me know in the comments how it is that works out for you. And if you're struggling or anything, just feel free. But just try and be kind. And work with this process and try it out. And make sure that you know there is a major, major difference between just doing the first step or two, where you just have an idea and you just have a feeling, and you do that and you only work with your idea and your feeling, and you're not going to get the same result. It just doesn't work. But if you work with the entire encompassed situation, then you know that you're walking in with emotion. It's something that's actually crafted. And it will take some time to learn this and continue to refine it. But the effort to refine it and learn this technique, it's well worth it. Well worth it. Well worth the effort. All right? One more thing. If you could like this video, apparently it helps do something, okay? So like the video if you feel like it, and keep watching the others, and really learn acting well, and this will really should help your work a lot.